Hi, everyone. Welcome to our monthly podcast, the one and the only Miss Wonderful Sandy Miarecki, who is joining us from her humble abode to talk about all things going on in the Republic, financial, and whatever else comes up that she's got in her copious notes. So we're always looking forward to talking with her. If you're new to the podcast, please do like, subscribe, and share. It helps the channel grow, others to gain the knowledge you're currently being afforded. As you know, Miss Miarecki is a retired Lieutenant Air Force Colonel, a test pilot, best of breed, and is running the Secretary of State for the acting Republic of Texas for the new Republic. And so she's going to give us, as always, her wonderful insights. So without further ado, Miss Sandy Miarecki, thank you for joining the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good, John. Thanks for having me again. Always a pleasure.
Likewise. So I will shut up and stand back and let the knowledge prevail and tell us what you've got, please.
All right. Well, I'll do this short intro like I always do about what it is that we're doing in the Republic. So everyone already knows that watches your show that our country was a republic given to us by our founding fathers via the Constitution. And we lost it in the Organic Act of 1871. It actually started during the Civil War, but we could argue about that for several hours. And we have a corporation, which I call the Corporate Crime Syndicate, because that's a very accurate description of what they do. So we've heard of the White Hats. They were actually called the Army of Virginia back in the JFK days, and they came up with a plan, and they needed a actually restored republic because ours got abandoned in 1871 when the corporation hijacked it. So they approached a group of patriots. They said, we'll do the best we can. And 2 years later, in fact, we just had our 15th year anniversary on Friday of restoring the Republic. And so that was in Utah on November 14th of 2010. They signed the Declaration of Sovereign Intent. Of course, there's a whole long story that goes along with that, but this is the short story. And so we've been holding the seats of the actual Founding Fathers Republic since at least that date. So that's what we do. I'm currently the National Secretary of State for the Republic, and I do podcasts a lot. And so this is how we originally met. And so now we have these nice little chats every once in a month or so. It's kind of nice.
Love it. And it's always a good time that we have. And I think hopefully we'll help our audiences to keep coming back. So obviously you're doing something right. And I'm just trying to support that. And we got to thank our friend Kim Walker for introducing us years ago. I want to give her a shout out because without her, this might have been infinitely more difficult. So now that you've given the cursory introduction, as you would always do, please, for the month of November, what's left of it,
Right.
please kindly give us an update if you would.
So other than our celebrating our 15th anniversary, which is a big biblical year, if you know your actual scripture. So 15 is a big number. And it's been an interesting time because, of course, we're reminiscing. We're having our folks that were there and in Utah who are telling us what it was like and how cold it was in the warehouse in Utah where they were trying to meet because the facility where they were was too small and and all those kinds of things. And so we have a link to that reminiscence, which is on Odyssey. So instead of Rumble or YouTube, it's Odyssey. And President Geiger has his own channel. And so you can find all of our videos on there. It was since the last time we talked, I decided that if something big happened, that I was going to write it down on a piece of paper, expecting to have 4 or 5 things to talk to you about. It fills the whole page. So I'm really just going to hit the highlights of the things because I don't think we really, this drip, drip, drip that we get, we really don't connect the dots on all the things that have been happening. I did just get some insider info today. That's good news that I can't share, but some of these things relate to it. And so I'm just going to let it sit with that. All right. So I'll just throw this out there. And then if you want to comment, I'll pause momentarily. Otherwise, I'll go on to the next thing. So one of the biggest things I think we all heard about was Bill Gates saying that climate change is not such a big deal. Since when?
180.
I mean, there is no such thing as climate change. That's, the way they say it. Right. Because it was global cooling. That was the big deal in the 70s.
Global warming, right?
Then it became global warming. Then they realized that it was going up and down because that's what the climate does. And they go, oh, it's climate change. And yet all these rich people are buying beachfront property. Huh, that's interesting. If they were so sure that the water was rising. So, big deal. The autism studies are coming out. That is another big deal. And most of us already know that vaccines cause autism. And now these studies are starting to come out. Children's Health Defense is carrying these stories. Highly recommend you go to their website. An inconceivable study. What was the name of it now? Oh, I forget the name. It was Del Bigtree and his folks. They just put out this, not inconceivable. I'm getting it mixed up with Princess Bride.
Okay.
Anyways,
Following your
the study they could not publish that Henry Ford Clinic did to prove Del Bigtree wrong, and they proved him right, and they wouldn't publish it. And that is that children who take vaccines are much unhealthier than children who don't. Like we all knew that. Now,
Shocker, right?
there's other things, of course, they have all the same, kind of thing.
So another day's water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fauci is facing perjury charges in Congress. Now, he needs to be a whole bunch of other things other than that. But if that's where they're going to start, fine. They have admitted that the COVID shots cause permanent heart damage. Who knew?
Wow. Breaking news.
I know. We knew that before they even gave the shots. Because all you have to do is read the papers on mRNA and other things, and you found out that it's going to cause heart damage. All right. The government shutdown. Of course, that was the big deal, October 1st, right? We talked about that a little bit in October. And so then the big deal with the SNAP program, right? All the handouts, the welfare. I didn't see any protests, did you? Bizarre, isn't it? But they did find a whole bunch of fraud in the program. Like 500,000 people, apparently, that haven't even been born, or they're double counted, or I mean, it's just insane the amount of money that's been funneling out of that system.
Illegals.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too. Trump officials were feeling unsafe and felt that they had to move their homes onto military bases. What? Yeah. So they're living next door to the generals and the colonels, I guess, on the military bases near where they are located. I don't know what's going on with that. Okay. National Guard in DC is going to be there until January of 2026, unless they extend it again. South America and Africa, war is coming. And I guess Trump's about to deal it to them. This is already in the news. This is something I knew in advance, but it's now in the news, so I can actually say something. Even though we've only heard in the public that there's National Guard in DC, and there's a few in Chicago, and there's some in, all these, they're actually in all 50 states. And I know this from an insider. They're just not telling us. What's that all about? I don't know. All right. Trump implicates Obama and Clinton for treason and election fraud. Well, I guess they're the same thing. And he's been saying it more and more lately. So what are they getting ready to do there? So Venezuela and Nigeria. Oh, now we're hearing about which countries are going to be attacked, apparently. So something big must be going on in these two countries. It's not just drugs. It's got to be something else connected to this country. I would bet that has a lot to do with the election, all the fraud that has happened over time through the elections. Of course, Venezuela was the beginning of the election fraud software. That's where the CIA took it from, and then used it, adapted it, and whatever, and started using it in the US to control our own elections. James Comey is indicted. Of course, on like little things. And we're all waiting for the big things, right? Because we want to see the firing squad. I know I do, front row. Mhm. Mom Donnie wins the election in New York City. Huh. And he apparently has been threatening the ICE agents to not arrest the illegals. And he's not letting any trucks come through. Oh, that's all about. 90% of the nurses surveyed refusing all vaccines in the hospitals. Who would have ever thought we were going to hear that news 5 years ago? That's a huge number. They know what's going on. Okay, now comes all the fraud in basketball, then baseball, then football. We haven't gotten to all of them yet, but it's all fixed. We've got all these people that are just couch potatoes on every Saturday or Sunday or whenever their favorite sport is.
Right.
And they're going, go, go, go. It's already been determined.
Yeah.
Because the bad guys are going to win the bet no matter what you see on the television.
Right. Well, before you go on real quick, Sandy, keep going, but just no one's ever been, I'm in a basketball league on Sundays and, I alternate between that and church. And I've always said to the guys, sports is fixed. Oh, it could be fixed. They're 3D sheep. I'm like, well, explain to me how Vegas exists. How do they know the line, the spread, and the outcome ahead of time? How do they predict the score of the Super Bowl? They couldn't exist unless it were fixed. It's that simple.
Yep. All right. Apparently, as reported, 47 congressional seats, they're not running for re-election. They're both Republicans and Democrats. Apparently, it's going to be a problem for the Republicans. Again, this is all show. They're all on the same side of evil. So what that means, I don't know. Corporations are leaving Delaware in droves and heading to Texas. Yeah, they're locking down on that one, aren't they? All the loopholes. The Clinton Foundation documents are coming out about what they've been doing for real instead of what they say they're doing. I'm almost done with my list, by the way. And the Bank of America, Chase, and Wells Fargo are closing multiple branches. You've probably heard that one.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Republic turns 15 on Friday. So that's it.
That's all? That's it?
That's just 1 month. I'm not even, that's probably 3 weeks. I probably started keeping track about 3 weeks when I realized that so much was happening. I wasn't going to be able to remember it for you.
No, I appreciate you taking the notes. So let's
So all of those things all together.
I know. And it's just going to continue to flood like crazy, as you know.
So let me tell you one more thing.
Yeah, please go ahead.
This is in a kind of a conclusion based on some new information I've received. This is Sandy guessing again, because I'm just kind of taking in what I'm taking in and then assessing its truthfulness or not. I think the current plan is to restore the Republic either just before or just after July 4th of next year. I think that's the new deadline goal, whatever you want to look at there, which still doesn't give us a whole lot of time to prepare. Us, the Republic, we still have a few open seats we're still trying to fill. But we've got more serious people talking to us now about how exactly would you stand up the Republic? Well, we've had a little ways to think about that. So we've been sharing our insights. And that's my current guess as to when things might kick off. Now, I know we were just talking before we came on, have other info of other things that are happening that would need to come before the Republic is restored. So ball's back in your court, sir.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Well, you kind of beat me in a good way, beat me to the punch because you and I are so symbiotic and we've worked together for so long and now in a great way. that we just kind of understand the flow of where we're going. So I was going to ask you what you already said, what's the prognosis look like for the Republic to be restored? I've had a couple of other guests on actually who you didn't know they said this because unless you were watching, you would know, have said pretty much the same thing that the back wall, even Big Swear was on X22, I think 2 weeks ago, something like that. He said the victory day Trump gave us, the back wall is July 4th. So I think you're right about that as far as it's either by then or before, right? So before I get into my part of it, because I want to go through thoroughly what you've got, because you had a lot of touch points. We already know Anthony Fraudchi has been dealt with. This is not the real one, just like Barry Sortero and all the rest of them. Okay, well, I know there's some debate on that. I believe that most of them, let's say, have been dealt with. Maybe not all, but the good majority.
Well, let me tell you, I've seen at least
Yeah.
one podcast where the Fauci mask was popping out of his shirt or something.
Yeah.
So for that one instance, at least, it was not really him.
Right. And there are others.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen
can-
their masks and
you
we've
can
seen
debate.
the short one and the tall one, and it's like 6 inches difference, and it's like,
Right.
okay, yeah.
Right. Exactly. I mean, we know there's being at the position you held at Post, you had, classified information that you were privy to. You know as well as I do that there are multiple presidents. There's been at least six
Many
doubles
years.
for each one, many. So people don't get that because even in the entertainment industry, this is common. So they can be protected and be at multiple places at once. It's the same axiom across industries and verticals. So we could, not a debate, we could discuss, because we don't debate, but we could discuss the merits of what the percentage of the bad guys have actually been Gitmo versus not. But whatever leftovers will be, as you rightly said, dealt with. I guess the one of the questions I want to start with, Sandy, before I go to my part of it, because your part's more important, is there's a lot of speculation about that they're waiting till the midterms to deal with Big Mike and Barry Soetoro. Do you agree, or do you think that's going to be handled beforehand? And if so, why?
Well, that's next year after the 4th of July. So there's one data point, right? Is it easier to handle them under a corporation or under a republic? Great question. Is it easier to handle them under common law or under military martial law? I just got.
No, I get it.
So it's like, well, it's definitely easier under martial law because then it's the UCMJ that's in charge, not the normal things that you and I would think about for trials and things like that. I think we're going to need a whole bunch of mobile hanging gallows on truck beds and drive around all these locations and just take care of business. I don't know. I kind of had that dream once a long time ago, like 2-3 years ago. And I'm like, really? Well, I guess it would make sense that we would need to, put some gallows on some flatbed trucks and drive them around. But yeah, I don't know. That kind of stuff, if they're not already dealt with, you don't know anything. That's the criminal part, right?
These are not what they seem. Yeah.
Yeah, they can tell us something all day long. It was like, that can't be true because of this other thing. And nobody listens to you because, it wasn't on the news.
Yeah, right. Because they're always so honest with us.
Oh, I know.
So then here's the other question I go to, Sandy, is whenever it does happen, there's a faction of, our truther community who, licking their chops like us to see it. But then there's a lot of the public who can't handle that. How does that get balanced out, do you think?
Well, obviously you won't have to watch it. There will be the option to watch it. They can't make you do it. If we're really going back to a republic, then it's freedom, right? Liberty. You get to choose. So will there be enough people who want to see it happen so that they can put their soul to rest that these people have been held accountable? I think so. And so if these other people who don't want to see that can just say, did you see it? Yeah. Did it happen? Yep. Okay, that's all I need to know. It's going to just be a whole variety of things. I am still wondering what they're going to put into this 8-hour loop that they are going to be playing, 24/7 during the so-called martial law when we're all under lockdown for the first few days. That's always been the, plan or whatever the expectation. So what are they going to put into that 8 hours? I would hope it's actually the truth of what's been happening, to the point where they're not going to turn people off and make them PTSD or something, from watching stuff, but yet they have to be awakened if they haven't already. So, blue pill, red pill kind of a moment.
Well,
And
that
even then,
sorry,
you
go ahead.
remember from the Matrix, sorry, remember from
No,
the
you're good.
Matrix when he took the red pill? It's not like it happened like that. It was a long process in the movie where he was doing the waking up, right?
Right.
And so you buy into this waking up process, and then you have to be awakened during that time period. It's going to take time. It's going to take, well, probably a generation that we've got to have the kids growing up in the truth so that the adults that are already damaged or whatever um, we'll have the actual people coming up behind that will be able to take over this republic and do the right things. So, because everyone else is still brainwashed into thinking that, oh, well, I have to do what the government tells me. No, you don't. You are the government.
Right.
People, you are the government.
They
We've
were
been
created.
totally screwed up when that comes up for debate.
Yep.
And that's what this republic is about. Bottom up,
Yeah.
right? The people
Absolutely.
are not the bottom.
Well, we just have to reverse. We've been lied to, so you just reverse engineer it.
Right.
It's a process, like you rightly said before. So on the excuse me, on the medical side, you brought up the vaccines. I went late last month to get a normal physical just to make sure everything's good before I can finally get out of here when that time comes. And what I thought was encouraging is my doctor did not ask me if I took said shot. Didn't even bring it up, didn't make any recommendations, which is something they used to do. And that just disappeared. And they've deferred it off to Big Pharmacia, which, just like the banks, are frittering away, because I've seen CVS and Walgreens and Rite Aids going away. What a correlation, Sandy, that the Big Pharmacia and the banks are kind of jettisoning off into the sunset almost at the same time. They wouldn't be in cahoots now, would they? No. No correlation there. So I think it's an interesting parallel. You talked about the banks. I mean, we know this. I mean, they're getting rid of all the fat, and they can say, "Oh, that's just to save costs." Baloney. Anyone who's not going to be a wealth management center involved with said reset isn't going to be around, isn't going to be necessary, because we are going to become our own banks on the new blockchain system, ostensibly.
You just reminded me of something
But
else.
cash too, by the way, for a little while. Go ahead.
And it's actually horrific. Trump saying that he's going to make Ozempic more affordable. People, do you know what's in Ozempic? It's Gila monster venom. That's what causes your stomach to not operate properly. And he's going to make it more affordable for you. It causes psychosis on top of everything else long term. So, is that the way to lose weight? If you're suicidal, yes. If not, no. So please stop doing that. And we know that RFK is doing the best that he can in what he's given. He's being fought tooth and nail from behind the scenes. He's being undercut. He's being everything. He's trying his hardest to do all the good stuff, and he's doing some good stuff, but he's got to do it at a pace that isn't going to cause upheaval. And even so, he's still doing it a little fast, I think, but not fast enough for you and me. I know. But this is what we're looking at, and just all this weird stuff. Trump RX, I'm like, really? So Obama was getting kickbacks for Obamacare, the name, I guess. And that just got shut down. Um, as waste, fraud, waste, and abuse. Hello. Now Obamacare itself is about to get chopped, which is awesome because it's been just one big giant scam, Ponzi scheme since the beginning.
Boondoggle. Yeah.
Um, and so is Trump RX going to be any different? Is he going to get paid for using his name like Obama? I hope not, because that just puts him in the same sentence with him. I don't know.
Couple thoughts, if that's okay. I wanted
Yes,
you.
sir. I'm done.
Well, no, I wanted you to finish first. I don't want to interrupt. Okay, so number one, like you said, things are not what they seem. Number two, it's what you've always said to be consistent with your narrative, and you're absolutely right that they're going to do it in such a way that has the least amount of collateral damage to the people.
Right.
So when you say it's not going fast enough for us, the truthers, the knowers, that's true, but we have to think about the fact that we're in the minority. It's like I was telling a guest I had the other day, how, the word quite well, how Jesus left the 99 sheep to go after the one. I think in this case, he's doing the inverse. He's leaving the one to go after the 99 because he knows we've got this. He's going to go deal with his people that don't. I think in this case, it's a bit of reverse engineering. No, I think what Trump is doing is he's pushing out the bad guys out in the open so people can see it and then choose it or not. Because as well as I do, when the new system comes in optically, when the med beds come in and all that, there'll be some people who will love it, some people who still will not choose it. Oh, I want the pills, and I want, they just refuse to leave that nest of the last several generations of inculcation. They just won't allow themselves to admit the cognitive dissonance and divorce themselves from the reality they thought they once knew.
Yeah.
I did a video on this with a guest about a week and a half ago. It's 2-year-old video, but again, future proofs past, showing the Trump med beds or the Trump medical card that you were talking about, and it was in South America, and they look a lot like deeper MRI machines. Basically, and then again, this is 2 years ago. I don't think that's the ones we're going to get into here in the States. The ones I've heard about from my friend, the Marine who watches us, who's decorated military like yourself, who's actually at Walter Reed. I've mentioned this to you many times for my audience who may not, or new people that might have heard this. 3 years ago, he had a buddy, the Marines that never leave a fallen member behind. So he gave his med bed appointment, excuse me, to his buddy because he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. It was more severe. And, in the allopathic world, you don't come back from that typically. Got into a med bed. It was a larger glass, much bigger and not claustrophobic, any of that kind of stuff. Apparently there's a lot of the light frequency in there that kind of keeps people calm. So that's just, that's the kind of, I think we're going to get into. And I'm doing the best I can to try to, coax along any kind of information of get an edge of like when we might go in. I haven't told me yet. It's kind of, as military, it's chain of command. When they get the word down, then they can do it, but haven't heard yet. But I don't get the feeling it's going to be too much longer. I think it runs in line with your initial question to me about finance. I think it runs concurrent with the reset. What I was going to tell you is last week I had to go in the bank for some unrelated paperwork to the reset that I needed. And I sat down with one of the wealth managers there. And I said, this is one of the wealth management centers, right? Oh yeah. But you guys are up on the new, whatever you want to call it. Well, the new financial system, you can call it QFS, ISO, whatever you want to call it. Because people get all hung up on titles with that stuff. But the new system, like, oh yeah, we've had it running for a while. And I said, it's removing the SWIFT system. I got more granular. Oh yeah, okay. And I'm sure you know about the global reset that's coming. Mm-hmm, we do. And I said, including the currencies. I said, yes. And I said, can you give me any information? I said, we haven't been told anything yet on that. We're waiting from corporate. So they told me as much as they could tell me without telling me, but they don't know the people that I have access to.
You already know.
Yeah, I'm kind of playing like half done with them so that, I don't give too much out, but just get enough bait put out to get something back. So they're already sort of tacitly confirming, these sort of things, which I thought was interesting, is their new wealth management. So for people who don't know, just in case, there may be one or two, when you're going into these banks, there's two components. There's the wealth management side, which means you're going to keep 250,000 in there minimum. What a coincidence. The FDIC insurance, which is a non sequitur at this point. And then there's private bankers, and that's usually 10 million or more in account. And those are the guys that go, all the Saudis have those accounts where if you want to buy a house or a car, they just pretty much order it for you and it shows up to your house or property or wherever your business that you happen to be. And it's that kind of, white glove treatment, you could say. Right. So they said, oh, well, it's interesting because now we're doing some new initiatives the last 6 months. I'm like, oh, what's that? Oh, well, you can buy cryptos now through us when you put money in the bank. We'll do those exchanges for you. I'm like, oh, you're trying to be a one-stop shop. They're like, yeah. I'm like, interesting. So they know what's at stake here. They know how everything is correlated, right? So I guess the genesis of your question back to me would be when, right? And that's, let me dial up my 8-ball crystal ball here. And, look, I think that the check thing, the dividend check, notice he didn't say stimulus, dividends, pulling from tariffs. You had Ben Salman, number 2, in today at the White House optically. He was doing the spear thing again, which, what that means. Derek Johnson's talked about this many times. He's firmly in control, and he touched him several times, which you cannot do unless you're king. That's just not allowed in that culture and in that hierarchy. That tells me a lot. That $1 trillion coming in is not for just AI chips and Warhawk planes. I can promise you. I've shown you the OFAC list. There's trillions and trillions and trillions of tranches in all those countries. Seizures of arrests. Obviously with your experience and acumen. In alphabetical order, there's almost 3,000 pages of that stuff. Just keeps going on and on and on. They've been fleecing this money for quite a while. So that's just the narrative is slowly being injected to the public eye, as you were saying earlier. So I think a lot of these tariffs, I think he's going to probably do a head fake with the deep state and say May next year, but really I think it's January. And so again, I'm not putting dates and rates or any of that stuff. Folks, go to God. Seek him out. Let him be your purveyor of truth. I'm not your financial advisor or your wealth manager or anything like that. We're just giving you good quality information for you to use for your own personal discernmental authority. With that being said, it would seem to me that it's a Kim Clement thing. Hypnotic November. You just got through extolling the virtues of a checklist that was pretty copious, and we're not even through the month yet. So there's more to come. So Hypnotic November, Christmas, I shall make them happy. You could argue the merits of which Christmas on the calendars, fine. But on the current Gregorian calendar that we're on, it looks to be Christmas and then flowing into next year. So do with that what you will. But I think there's going to be a lot of activity, across the board, but particularly on the financial side, over the next week's Thanksgiving. After that, basically, you got 2 solid business weeks in the year because they're going to start shutting things down with Hanukkah and Christmas. It starts to go into decline. So you got about 3+ weeks of the year left that you can really do something. And then, going into January from there. So I don't think it's like this stop and start. I think it's a domino effect. One big thing that we're looking for, you already know, Saturday is ISO 20022. Now, not all the problems go away on that day, but that is the beginning of where, coupled with Basel III, the banks can no longer manipulate with SWIFT and manipulate these wire transfers and get lost in translation and try to collect central bank interest money at the backs of we the people, as you said earlier. So we're starting to get finally to that sort of sports parlance. We're starting to get into that deep end of the red zone, is what I would say.
Well, what's also interesting is if you followed any of the Q posts and read October, I mean, that's been, at least on our minds for quite a while in the Republic, because big things happen in Octobers. And so was this it? Because that was, the country is bankrupt, it's in the red, and it was shut down. That really sounds like a red October to me. So I think that was it. I think we just went through the red October that was in the Q posts.
I think you're right. And one quick thing before you go on, Sandy, just to complement what you're sharing, what does October 1st every year signify?
The new fiscal.
Bingo. So we're
Yeah.
now in 2026 already.
Yeah, the fiscal. So I think that was it. I think that was the planned government shutdown. That behind the scenes, something happened that we weren't told. Last time we talked about the generals meeting on September 30th, they were absolutely briefed about what was going to be happening. They were absolutely told that you better play ball with us or else. Because here's the shocking part is I haven't heard about too many retirements yet. So are they told they can't retire? Because I would have expected a lot of retirements between September 30th and now. Over, not like 10 in a day, but like, I'm going to announce my retirement in January, and I'm going to announce my retirement to start in February, and to give them that time to find the replacement kind of stuff, right? That's usually what you'll see, but I haven't heard of maybe one, and that would be routine. So I'm still going, because they're all crooks. I mean, all the generals, they've all had to do stuff that they in order to make rank. So, yeah.
Changing of the guard. And didn't you say earlier in your reports about military presence of the White House until January 1st, unless otherwise updated?
DC. Yeah. National Guard in DC until it was extended to January of 26 again. And so now, what's going to happen in January? Is it going to be extended again? I would say, yeah, probably. So, and that all 50 states have a National Guard presence federalized. This is not just their routine National Guard that's in every state. This is the federalized National Guard in every state that we're not being told, but is absolutely there.
And to complement what you're also saying, or try to, going back real quick, I'm just thinking, there's all these ancillary details that come up in your mind as you share things, as you know. Fed chair from Atlanta, Alonzo, can't remember his name, LGBTQ guy, stepping down in February of the Fed. Trump saying today in his meeting that he knows who his Fed chair replacement is going to be, and he'd like to get rid of Powell right away. I think it's probably going to be in December. And it's the person that no one's talking about. We talk about it, but just because he doesn't mention someone's name, as you know, doesn't mean that they're not there behind the scenes. I'm referring to Judy Shelton. I really think it's going to be Judy Shelton. How else are these other Fed chairs who don't talk about the gold standard? And we know Trump's a gold guy. We know he's going to revalue gold. He's going to audit the Fed in Fort Knox, all that stuff. Maybe he's already paralleled the economies now, because what do you think's paying those SNAP benefits? It's not tax citizen dollars. It's nationalized tariffs coming from other countries, the OFAC list and Doge and all.
But then the price of whatever it is that's coming into the country with the tariff on it is a higher price that we have to pay.
Yes, but that's true. But what he's going to do to counteract that starting in December is the energy costs. He's going to start bringing the gas prices down, the diesel down, which will help the food and all these things that we're feeling the pain points on. Your electric bill, depending where you live. And I caveat it with that, because if you're in a blue state like I'm, unfortunately, until I leave, you'll see a marginal difference here. But in the South and the Midwest, where they have their head on straight, they're gonna see a major adjustment. I mean, I just got reports today from my buddy Joe, former military like you. He's in Houston, further south from you, I believe. He said he's already seeing gas down to $2.59, and with all the discount Kroger cards and all that kind of stuff. Again, that's what he's telling me. In Florida, where I have some family, I'm already hearing it, close to that number. So it's already being realized in a lot of places, but it's not Trump that's stopping, it's the states and the corrupt states. And that's all part of the midterm function too, right? But again, that goes back to the time frame, gets rid of Powell in December, brings in, I believe, Judy Shelton, again, gold bug. You're not hearing any of these other Fed so-called candidates, these guys, talk about restoring the gold standard. I have not heard one of these guys talk about it, or how we should revalue gold and silver 1-to-1, which is absolutely going to happen, because as you know, we have a scarcity of silver, but we have an influx of gold. something's got to give to level the playing field.
Right.
So, and you mentioned, just going back on some of your touch points by memory, you were talking about Venezuela and I think you said Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Nigeria um, goes deeper than that. I mean, that's deep, but I'm saying on the financial side, so Venezuela gets rid of Maduro, communist, replaces him with Humberto Gonzalez, nationalized that country. Really good for the Venezuelan Boulevard.
Mhm.
Nigeria, I'm sure, factors in. I'm waiting to see when Zimbabwe is discussed with Nelson Chamisa because he's much like Judy Shelton there, waiting in the wings. As he decorrupts the entire global process. And how does Saudi Arabia, I wonder, if anything, maybe you can chime in on this. They're one of the most influential players in the Middle East, right? Not just in terms of oil, but the political structure, keeping terrorism out, what role do they play, if anything, in helping keeping the corrupt Iranian proxies out so they stop infecting Iraq so they can finally get freed up?
Right. And then you've got the the whole setup of Iran and how much and we have to make sure we're very specific about separating the people of the country from the corporate crime syndicate pretending to be the governments of all these countries. Because we really do want to remove the corrupt governments and give the people a break in every country. So who's actually real anymore? Who's a mask? Who's a twin? Who's a double? Who's already been taken care of? But Iran is like, the people of Iran are ordinary people, and their government is probably not, but they're working for the people. So
Well, and there's also,
there's just so much going on in that region of the world, and what's real, what's not, what's news, what's hidden.
right,
Yeah, it's
moves
crazy.
and moves and counter moves.
Yeah. And then now the earthquake under Salt Lake City, what the hell was that? Explosion. I'm sorry. I think it was an explosion. They actually called it. Just random stuff that you're trying to piece together. Was it yesterday or the day before? Yesterday it was, gosh, it feels like a week ago. Um, Multiple E4 and E6 military aircraft, which are the communications hubs, this with the big dome and on the top and all that kind of stuff. And they've got all the sensors and all that stuff. So they can do command and control. It's kind of like having a base command post in the sky that can communicate with anyone and anything and all around the world with through satellites and everything. And what were they looking at, watching, whatever? It was basically the Midwest. And there was a California presence and there was a Southern East Coast presence all at the same time. The heck was that? I mean, you can see that on the flight aware, software.
Mhm.
Um, it just, you and I can just spitball and see what sticks to the wall at this point because we don't know.
Yeah,
Because as it's part of the show, and
yeah.
is it for us? Probably not. Is it for everyone else? Probably.
Hmm.
Because we already know what's going on. Well, we think we know what's going on based upon what we've heard. But, mm,
The old expression, know enough to be dangerous, and
that's
it's
exactly
just
right.
it's complimentary. And then we got to talk about, you talk about Iran and Palestine and Iraq for that matter. There's a lot of good Christians in those parts of the world. We need to be praying for on a daily basis that are dealing with persecution and death and beheading and just standing up against, the Muslim factions. And even in Israel, we need to be praying for our men and women of brothers and sisters in Christ because they don't have it as well as we do here in America. Even with all of our problems, we still have some of the ability to have faith-based freedom, and a lot of them don't have that. It's easy to get take that for granted or lose sight of that, and we shouldn't. And so we want to keep be mindful of that too. There's real people dealing with this stuff. So, well, I mean, I've pretty much emptied the vault. Is there anything else you can think of you want to add?
No, other than every time we talk, I get less and less sure of what I'm telling you because it's like, I don't know these, where the info is coming from source wise and all that, because you know that the true insiders aren't giving us anything. They can't because
Well,
they know what's at stake. It's
right.
one chance, all or nothing. And they know that if they say something that ruins the plan, that's it. We lost our chance.
I
So,
agree, but I think you can be enough over the target. With nobody should be expected to know 100%, but because you can't, and it's just impossible. And as you said, it should be that way. So no, I'm with you.
but you can
Um,
use your discernment. And I
right.
think that's what you and I are doing. And when we hear or see something and we go, that does sound about right.
Mm,
And that's kind of like the stuff that we're sharing. Or like what I just did this was all the news that came up in the last 3 weeks or so. And I'm like, that's insane. That's that amount of stuff. Um, and now the auto pen, I forgot that one, the
oh
auto
yeah,
pen
yeah.
has now actually been revoked. The only problem is there's a lot of folks that received clemency, and that hasn't been recalled yet. I'm interested into when that's going to happen.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Well, more will be revealed with time, right?
we hope.
Oh, it will. It will. It always, truth always comes out over time. So
Mhm.
I'm sure you know that. Well, as I always do, Sandy, to conclude and honor your time, Lieutenant Colonel Sandy Miarecki, if you would, please let the people know where they can find the Republic, the true Republic,
Yes,
and last thoughts that you have for the audience today.
sure. And we'll make sure we put the link in the chat or the description.
Yep.
We have a shortcut to our website. It's republicforusa.org. Republic, FORUSA.org. And that will take you to our members website. We've got documents and some other things to read there, videos, etc., but essentially where you can register to be a member of the Republic. If you are interested in holding a position, we have many of them open. You just need to reach out through that website and volunteer and say, I'd like to help out in some way. We need a lot of folks at the county level, so it's not anything that's getting super duper crazy, like trying to make you president or something. We're not going to do that. So, help out at the lowest levels, in the highest levels, if you look at it from the we the people standpoint, and get your county settled back on the land, and then maybe step up to a different position. So that's how you find us.
Short and sweet. I love it.
Yes, sir.
Last but not least, ma'am, on our channel, it's a new product that Chris has asked me to talk about. I mentioned to you offline. Do you know anyone who is a fan of coffee or coffee drinkers?
I've got a couple of folks well, one in particular pops into my mind as a connoisseur. Like,
Oh, really?
you don't want that one. That one's got, oaky notes or something. I'm like, okay, whatever. Sounds like wine. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, no, I get it. I'm not a connoisseur by any means,
No.
but I
Tastes
can.
good, it tastes bad. That's about all I can tell you.
Well, you can tell the ones that have been sitting. Well, because I've been exposed now the last couple of years to coffee, like the ones that sit in the stores. You don't know how long they've been there. The more they sit there, they create mold because water gets in, and that does. A lot of our beans are sort of reconstituted from other countries. They sell us the leftovers. But Chris has sent me kindly this product, Chakra 17, and I didn't really have any high expectations one way or the other. I said, I'll give it a try. He asked me to give it a try. I have to say, honestly, I was quite impressed. And I would pick up if it's too bold or too flat or too, that bitter taste associated with the mold. But one of the things that's cool about this product is 100% Arabica beans. So it's locally sourced responsibly.
All right.
Ton of antioxidants, anti-aging properties, so there's health benefits to it. But what's also cool is that for every cup you drink, a percentage of the profits go to different companies and charities that help either reduce or eliminate sex and human trafficking. So it's truly a gourmet coffee, but with an actual great cause. So it's kind of a win-win. So I thought I might just let you and your audience know about it in case anybody's interested. We'll leave the link in the description, the video or below. You can check it out. Lieutenant Colonel Sandy Miarecki, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here. We salute you for all of your past, present, and future efforts. Keep your head up, stay positive. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Can't believe we're saying that already.
And to you.
And thank you. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.